So what we've established here is that proximity and voice speak greatly regarding our friendship with the Lord. If we walk with him and he speaks with us, that is an awesome sign. What we've also established is some walk closer than others and some hear more than others. That's that whole Mark 4 teaching I've done here. Take heed what you hear, for by the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. The context is hearing. So the ones who walk the closest and hear the most are the closest. We love to hear that all of us are just as close as the other with the Lord, and that God has no favorites. I think we're confusing that with being a respecter of persons. But if the Lord has no favorites, then how can he bestow favor? Because the favorites carry favor. He said of David, he's a man after my own heart. He said of Abraham, there was nobody else like him. How can I judge Sodom and not talk to him about it, right? So certainly some people walk much more closely with Jesus than others. Now all of us have the opportunity. I said all of us have the opportunity. I'm going to say it again until that gets in you. All of us have the opportunity to walk with Jesus should you want to. And I highly recommend it. But now let's talk about the fruit in a life that claims to be a friend of the bridegroom. Matthew 12:34. You ready for this? Don't you love the Lord? Look how this begins. Brood of vipers. I'm leaving that church. Has a pastor ever called you a brood of vipers? Jesus here calls them a brood of vipers. Listen, how can you, being evil, speak good things? For out of the abundance of the heart, here we go, get this, the mouth speaks. My words are an indicator of my heart. Well, now you're freaked out. Now you're freaked out because you should be. For you to say, well, I said that, especially if you say it consistently, but my heart is pure, is to lie. Words are a revelation of the heart. So if somebody has a talking issue, they have a heart issue. Now, when you put on a display and a facade, at times you can kind of breach the flow of what's really in the heart. But what I can promise you, like if you came to Jesus School, for instance, you would do that well for like maybe the first 2 weeks. But if you sit under that worship and the word and stuff starts getting unearthed, and then you're in a comfortable setting in your presence groups, those are our smaller groups that meet, how many times a week? Once or twice? You really just can't hide it long. Because God's presence is a light. He's a light. And the best thing you can do is repent when that's revealed rather than try to hide it. So I have really struggled, like eventually, I'm good to talk to people for a while, but eventually our convos get to Jesus. And I used to be embarrassed of that until a leader said, I love that you talk about Jesus all the time. That means that's burning in your heart. So I think one of my kids walked in today when I was getting ready, and they said, what are you going to preach on? And in my head I thought, how long shall I suffer? How long have I been with you? I thought to myself, you know what I said? I'm going to preach on, I just wanted to see what they do. I said, I'm preaching on squirrels. And their kids were walking. Then he goes, and then it stopped. He goes, squirrels? I said, what do you think I'm preaching on? Jesus. Well, when the Lord is on your heart, you're going to speak of him. All right, give me permission. Just say please. All right, now I feel better, so you can't get mad at me. If the Lord is on your mind, you'll speak of him. If you're gossiping, it's proof that he's not in your heart and not on your mind. Well, not that he's not in your heart. It's proof that you've turned your attention away and that your thoughts are not on him. And so here Jesus is going, of course you speak the way you do, you brood of vipers, because your heart is dirty. Luke 6:45, go there. Can I have a few extra minutes? Come on, are we going to need a double dose because of last week? Hopefully you're hungry for the word. Luke 6:45, a good man, listen, out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth good, and an evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart brings forth evil. For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. Now notice what the Lord's saying here. He's calling speaking, bringing forth. That's how to look at this passage contextually. He's saying when you talk, you are bringing something forth. Now, you may not be able to see the words, but they are creative in nature, or deconstructive in nature, or destructive in nature. When you talk, something is coming forth. Now, I love what Bill said. I thought this was so powerful. If thanksgiving gives me an audience with the Lord, who does complaining give me an audience with? Oh, I'm glad he said it and not me, but I'm glad you just heard it. You complain around me long enough, you won't be around me very long. I'll walk you through it for like 15 minutes. But if you're going to live a life of complaining, you will not be my friend. I don't have time for it. I have a lot to complain about, but I have a lot to rejoice about. And the same with you. You actually get to choose who you hang out with and who you listen to. I don't care if you're related. I don't care if it's your culture to whine. I don't care if that's just what we've always done in our family. Shut it down. You want an audience with demons? Well, then don't do it. Jesus didn't say you company of people on a journey. He said you brood of vipers. You ever seen a brood of vipers? It's a cluster of them in a dark pit. He said that's what you are. And so in Luke 6, it takes a step further and illustrates that to speak is to bring forth. Talk about Jesus properly, with a heart connected to him, he'll come. If you were to say, what's been one of the keys to meetings filled with the presence of God? Worshiping Jesus, preaching his word, and being aware of him and talking to him. And he just starts coming because he has ears. And he hears it when his name is called with a heart that really burns for him. You need both. So maybe you ask, what's the big deal with just saying a few things if my heart is pure? Well, your word issue is a heart issue. And why is this important to be a friend of the bridegroom? Well, if you want to be his friend, you must learn to tame the tongue. If you speak of encounter and your tongue has not been tamed, you need another encounter. I think one of the most marking things that has happened to me since that Friday night at the pastor's conference is the awareness that he's there. I've been overshadowed with the awareness of the Lord's presence since that Friday night. I don't know how to explain it.